Mind the gap.
And welcome aboard, commuters, and in this video, the fourth of a series of 5, we're going to finish off doing the main colours of the skeletons. Now 2 are going to be quite serious paint schemes, much in the same fashion that we've done so far, and the final 2, although I kind of consider them cheating, they're quick and easy. They're very limited palette, very quick to do. One of them involves only 2 colours, in fact actually a primer and a colour, and they do have their place in an army. If you're looking to paint say 100-200 skeletons in a very short space of time just to get them to a tabletop standard, this method would work very well. So let's crack on with the first one, and we're going to begin by using Vallejo model color, and the color name is brown violet, and the code is 70.887, or as I prefer to call it, number 93. Okay, 2 usual things to note here. First of all, as usual, my computer seems to be having problems, so there's lots of stop-start, for which I apologize for. And the second usual thing is that we thin the paint down a little bit, and then we apply at least 2 good base coats. Again, how much you thin the paint down will depend on how many will determine how many layers of paint you need, but obviously get a nice solid coat down. Okay, the next colour that we need is a khaki 70.988, also known as 115. What we want to do is just dry brush this all over. And this is going to be followed by another dry brush using a 50-50 mix of the khaki that we used before and buff 70.976, also known as 120. And this will be finished off with the zenithal dry brush just at 45 degrees using the buff that we've used in the previous step. And here's the first skeleton completed. Okay, for our second skeleton, we're going to base in green ochre by Vallejo model color, code 70.914, code 119, and as per all of our skeletons, 2 thin layers should be perfect. You will notice on some of these I do get the airbrush out. This is just to help dry it a little bit quicker. Some people use a hairdryer, some people just let it dry naturally. Okay, unfortunately there was problems with the footage for the next 2 stages, so I'll let the footage play and I'll just explain what I've done. So the next stage we want to do a 50-50 mix of the green ochre that we use for the base, and then 120 buff by Vallejo model color, 70.9676, let's say code 120. We did use that in a previous skeleton. And then we'll just finish that off with a zenithal dry brush using the buff 120. Okay, so for the next one, I began with a base of Cavalry Brown 70.982, code 137. Now I chose this colour because it was a very red brown. However, I really didn't like it, so before it was dry, I kind of panicked, and I will admit I panicked, and I added in a chocolate brown 70.872, code 149. Now the reason I've left this in is because my videos aren't so much tutorials, this is how you do it. They're more my adventures in painting, so they're more this is how I did it. Obviously if you don't like the way that I did this, then I would recommend you don't actually copy it, but like I say, I think I kind of salvaged it at the end, but this is how I did it. Okay, for the next stage, I've gone for red 70.926, code 33. Now, if you have more than one red and you can't decide which red to go for the darker one, because we are going to add a little highlight on the top. So go for the darker one. It gives a sort of a more dried, bloody effect. And what we're going to do is we're going to look for mainly the joints, slightly raised areas, and we're just going to give that a little overbrush. Don't put too much paint on the brush. This is kind of like a little bit heavier than a dry brush. If you want to call it a heavy dry brush, that's fine. So where perhaps a bone has joints on each end, go for the joints, leave the bit in the middle, and just try and get sort of the upper areas. And finally, we're going to just do the same again using, now I used Troll Slayer Orange, but something nice and bright. I didn't have anything in the Vallejo range that would do the job. And we're just going mainly where the joints meet. Don't go quite as far as you did with the red. It's just sort of more the slightly higher upper areas. Okay, so you could leave him there, but I felt he looked very, very bright, so I decided to give him an all-over shade of Null Oil, just to finish him off. Okay, so he looks a little bit shiny because he's still wet, but this is the completed model. Okay, so sometimes you paint a model, you're not really happy with him, but he's solved his purpose. But as time goes on, he kind of grows on you, and this is the case with this one. Now all this one is it's just literally an overbrush with Citadel Screaming Skull over the primer. Now in this particular case, I used grey primer. You could use a dark brown primer, maybe even a medium brown primer, or of course you could use black primer. But all you're literally going to do, don't flood the brush with paint. Just sort of what I did was I dipped a little bit of paint. Dipped the brush into the paint, and then just got most of it off using the side of the brush, side of the pot, and then I just gave it a little bit of an overbrush. And to be honest with you, I mean, he's quick and simple. He doesn't look professional, but he doesn't look too bad. And here is the completed 4th model and the 14th of the series. Okay, so here are the 4 completed skeletons for this video, all side by side. As you see, they're all very different, but again, they still all look like proper skeletons. So that's the end of, or coming to the end of this video, and I hope you'll join me next week when I begin work on things like the weapons, any clothing. Some of them have got fur. We'll add a base to them and we'll try to make them look like they all belong in the same unit. Okay, take care guys, I'll see you next week.